Hello, everyone. I have been looking so much forward to this edition of the Triangle podcast with CEO of TriDot, Jeff Booher, all the way from Texas, currently sitting in Nice, waiting for the Ironman World Championship, and north of Copenhagen. The eye candy of this show, the one and only Katrine Trolle, mother, entrepreneur, and TriDot coach herself. So, welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
We have quite the show here today, and I think it's appropriate to say, ladies first. Katrine, you have been doing pretty much every aspect of the sport of triathlon. You've been very active. Age grouper yourself. You have been working at Club La Santa, had different jobs within the Ironman organization, and for the past years you've been a full-time coach. Did I get everything right there?
Yeah, more or less. Yes. I've been doing the coaching for quite a lot of time, but I had 4 years where I was working full time with Ironman, where I didn't do any coaching, but took that up again. What was it, a year and a half ago, or something like that? Yeah.
And on the TriDot platform all the time, or is that something that happened recently?
No, so what happened was that we talked to each other a little more than a year ago, where I was starting this triathlon club only for women called LP Tri Club. And as had been out of the coaching business, I actually didn't know what platform to use. So I kind of searched the market a little bit, but then my former boss in Ironman, she was like, "Oh, you should reach out to TriDot. They've really got something good going." And I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm open to listen to anything." And got in touch with one of the guys from TriDot, and I was like, "This is exactly what I need for my women's triathlon club. It's easy for the athletes, and it's easy for me to use." So I just found a perfect match in it. And then I think the whole like community part that was around TriDot was also very appealing to me, obviously, when I was creating a community myself. So that's actually how I got in touch with TriDot.
Ah, good. And I believe, Jeff, that's sweet music to your ears because you're actually the CEO of
Yes.
TriDot. So how does that make you feel when you are the one who created this platform?
Well, it was great. When Katrine was talking about starting her coaching business in the community, those are all things that just resonate with me. I know that's so important, how you serve your athletes and when you want to bring something to them. And I love the reaction. Hearing that is the first time I've heard her say that. Just as far as is learning about it and being willing to do the due diligence. Not just taking the first thing or trying a platform, but actually doing some research, learning about them, and then to have that reaction, hey, this is exactly what I need. That's wonderful to hear.
Exactly. And Jeff, you have been coaching for around 22 years. Actually, you have been coaching and on a very high level, even with. I believe the name Bob Lindquist was mentioned at some point around the American Olympic teams on a pretty high level, actually.
Yeah, I did some training even before that. So triathlon the last 22 years, and some physical training in the Army and other places before that. And then I got to work back in 2010 and 11 with a collegiate recruitment program. I coached one of the top 12 collegiate recruits in the country, draft legal Olympic style, and I've had a chance to coach a couple on the Olympic B team, para triathletes, and about 13 to 15 professional triathletes. But I really love working with the age groupers, the people that are kind of like me, busy families, a lot of stuff to do, but still want to scratch the itch. They want to be competitive. They want to improve.
Yeah.
It's been great.
And when I read through your resume and it says military intelligence, I don't know if it's my brain that suddenly comes to think of a certain Edward Snowden, but it's not that kind of military intelligence, I believe. Can you talk a little bit about your work with this whole software part and military intelligence, and your way into creating TriDot?
Sure. Yeah, my background is in computers, is management of information systems. So I had a technology background. I've been in sports my whole life. Really enjoyed that. I was in military intelligence for about 12 years in the reserves, and got to do some fun stuff there. I got to learn a language, and that was really neat. And again, during all that time, it's very physical as well. So you're training. But sometime after that, when I first got into the sport of triathlon, was 2002. I did my first sprint triathlon and was just hooked, and I loved it. I enjoyed it so much, and very competitive. So I started learning and wanted to know, how do you train, and how do you compete, and how do you do good?
Yeah.
And I talked to a couple of the guys that were, kind of pro level, doing real well. And they told me they were training 25 to 30 hours a week. And I thought that was crazy. And they also spoke a lot about injuries, keep getting injured. And at first I was just really struck by that. I said, I'm not giving up my wife and my family and my career. I'm not doing that. But I still wanted to do well. And also just about the injuries. It's not a contact sport. So it's just puzzling to me at first why there were so many injuries. Just, overtraining and different things. So I started researching and learning, and kind of like Katrine did with her, what platform should I use? Like, how can I train better? I bought every program out there. If there's a service, someone's training plans, I bought them all, looked at them, learned. I got certified in USA Track and Field, USA Triathlon, USA Cycling, everything. I bought every book, like tons, and did it for a couple of years, and realized that what I found was there's a lot of people talking about data, but they were pointing to the data that supported their philosophy. And it was really their philosophy that was driving the training, because people were saying the opposite things. They were talking about high volume, low volume, vastly different things. And they were all pointing to data. And every time I even traced it back to the original white papers and research studies, generally, all of that was done on elite cyclists or unfit people, and they were 35-year-old younger men. So as these 20 trained cyclists, and they would try to extrapolate these principles without accounting for a lot of variabilities to the broader audiences. So that set me on a personal mission of, I want to learn how to get more improvement with the time that I have, because I still want to be a present father and husband and employee, and I don't want to get injured, but I want to do it, on much less time. And so I started just building some algorithms. I had a local training group I worked with. And so I started recruiting them as guinea pigs, and using their plans. I kept, learning and getting certified and doing these different things. And what started with a couple dozen turned into several hundred by 2007, 8, 9 timeframe, and actually started the company in the end of 2009.
Yeah.
Really to solve that problem. How do people, get better results with less time, with fewer injuries? And that's like what I see now was started with just me, a very personal, selfish, endeavor, was something that's common to everybody. I don't care if you're a busy professional, or you're a beginner and only have 5 hours a week to train, or you're an elite, or anything. Everybody wants training efficiency. Whatever time you have to train, you want it to help you improve. You don't want to waste it. And so the better that we can get that, the more intelligence we can get to our training. I think your training is the most important decision that you make as far as your triathlon journey, your experience. How you spend your training time has more consequence on every aspect of your triathlon experience than any other decision that you make.
Sure. I wanted to start this conversation with the concept of AI. You can say it's the umbrella for all this. When we talk about coaching, the concept of AI means very different things to different people, because I've heard people say that AI to them is like something that is random, something that really can't be trusted. Also, related to all the old sci-fi movies, where can you really trust this stuff? And to other people, AI means something that is science driven, even more accurate, and so can I throw this one out to you? For instance, Katrine, how does people resonate when you mention AI?
Yeah, actually, it's quite accurate what you say, Lasse. It is different depending on what kind of people that you're talking to.
Yeah.
I think for me, like when I first heard it, I was also a little bit hesitating. But I also think that we can't really get around the fact that this AI has come to stay, and it's something that will impact our lives in all ways for the next many, many, many years, if not forever. And it will just keep developing more and more. And yeah, we all know ChatGPT and how much help that you can also get with just small things that you do in your everyday life. So I think that it's time for people not to be scared of it or hesitated about it, but more embracing it. And I think very much in terms of training and using it AI in training plans. I always say to athletes when I start with them, I always say I use TriDot. TriDot is a tool that helps me coach you better and make sure that you get the right training, but you're an individual person. So you and I talk about how it fits into your everyday life and how we can make it perfect for you. But AI and TriDot is the tool that helps me make the perfect program for you. So I think it's also about kind of like how you communicate AI in different, you can write something in ChatGPT and you have to rewrite it because it's not
Yeah.
always exactly what you want it to say. So you always have to double check, oh, is it actually what I want to say, or what I want is it actually getting my message out? So it's not like it's something where you can just 100% only rely on that. So yeah, so I think that, like you say, it's very different depending on what people you talk to, but I think we are getting in a direction where people are embracing it more than they're scared of it.
And if I can be a little bit more specific, turning to you, Jeff, in this topic about AI, do you believe that it's a generation thing for people who grew up being skeptical in the 70s and 80s? Have you experienced the same bias towards AI in your business?
I have, and when we talk to people, I think some of the stereotypes, like you mentioned, from old movies and these different things come to mind. I think more often nowadays, people think of ChatGPT and they think all AI is the same AI, and not all AI is the same. It's like you used a term earlier, like an umbrella word. It's like the word vehicle.
Yeah.
Vehicle can mean many things. If I use the word vehicle and you're thinking my car, my automobile, and I said I can take you, your family, and all your belongings across the Atlantic Ocean in my vehicle, you'd think I'm crazy. There's no way in the world it could do that. But if I said, well, my vehicle, what I'm talking about is a cargo ship, well, that's a very different vehicle. And so AI, sometimes people use the word AI like you would vehicle when you can mean, a motorcycle or a airliner. So I think with most people, they think of AI and the large language models currently. That's just what they're seeing with. And so many people are trying to use that technology. And it's very, very different. What our AI is not that at all. It's completely different. We have what we call FitLogic. It's our intelligence engine that was designed specifically for endurance athlete, trained on endurance athletes' data over 20 years. So the other kinds of AI, I call them imitation AI, they or mimetic AI, they mimic what a person would do. Like Chat GPT, if that was helping, if we use a large language model, it would be replicating, and it was trained on internet text about training. It's not actually trained on the training, it's about what people say about training on the internet. Another way you can use that kind of AI is to automate a template or someone's philosophy. So it's mimicking what a person would do. And that's not at all what we do. I can give you another example. The large language models, if you think about that, they're not new with ChatGPT. They started developing those back in the early 1980s and developing all of the technology required to interpret language, to understand sentiment, to all of these different things, and made progress over the years. And that's what we've been doing for 20 years in the endurance space. So we've been building technologies and algorithms to understand and see things differently and better. I would think a better maybe analogy than ChatGPT would be, think of it like a flight control system on an airliner. All right.
Yeah.
So that intelligence just means able to sense your environment and react to it. Artificial just means using computers or machines or something to be artificially intelligent. So the flight control system is not just mimicking what a pilot would do. A pilot, if based on our physical ability, you'd look out the window and you'd see the horizon, you'd see if it's clear, you'd see if there's a mountain in front of you, and you make decisions to fly the airplane. But with a flight control system, you can fly at night in inclement weather. It can see a weather system way over the horizon that you can't see yet, and it'll start diverting your route around it. It can see if there's a jet stream that maybe you're heading into a headwind. If you went up 10,000 feet, maybe you'd have a tailwind and help you go faster. There's so many things that it can do and see beyond what a pilot can see. So it's not just mimicking what a pilot would do, it's providing an additional service and providing functions. And so that's the kind of system that we've designed in a flight control system, is designed specifically for pilots in that use. You would not use that system to do, AI in a different industry for a different purpose. So it's very purpose specific. One of the things that Katrine said a second ago was talking with her athletes about how you can trust and how she can trust, and understanding the differences, I think, is key. What it is, what it was built for. So our FitLogic intelligence engine was built specifically for coaching and training endurance athletes, just like the flight control system was created just for pilots and for navigating airplanes.
Exactly, and we're going to dive much deeper into that in a moment. But I think when we're doing a serious talk about AI and TriDot, we have to also be able to mention the sort of, let's say, quote unquote elephant in the room, because there were a very for a long time very high profiled collab between TriDot and Ironman, and this partnership came to a, let's say, a quite abrupt stop about a month ago in the beginning of August. So without completely destroying and throw Ironman under the bus, Jeff, can you maybe tell a little bit about what happened there?
Sure. I'm happy to. Well, I'm sure it felt very abrupt. From the outside, we actually gave Ironman notice of a material breach back in March, so about 6 months prior, 5 months prior, and we tried to collaborate with them for 5 months after that, trying to work out just issues. The details are confidential in our contract, but we tried to work it out, and just at the end of the day, we couldn't get something worked out. So unfortunately, we had to terminate our sponsorship at that time. But despite us not having a that collaborative, that contractual relationship, we still are supportive of Ironman. I'm here in Nice at the World Championships. We wish them well, and we want to to move forward together a little bit differently. But we launched Ironman U. During that, we developed all the program for that and launched that. So we've actually transitioned to that. That's all our content, and rebranded it. We launched it last week. So all of the coaches, at no additional fee, they have access to all of the material, the education. So we're going to continue doing all the things we've done to support, educate, equip, coach, and help them get more experience and to serve their athletes better.
Okay, so it doesn't sound like there's any directly bad feelings between the two of you.
No, I hope not. I mean, disappointed is not what we wanted, what we hoped for when we started. But as business and life and everything, as race day, it never goes exactly like you want it to go. And sometimes all you can do is pivot and make the best of it. And so that's what we're doing going forward.
Yeah, thank you for that explanation. Being a coach, Katrine, I can ask you here in Scandinavia, if you want to be a full-time coach and also be able to buy birthday and Christmas presents for your kids, how many how many athletes do you, as a coach, need to make a full-time living out of it? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it obviously depends on how big your birthday presents for your kids are. Nowadays, I know that most parents buy them iPads and big flat screen TVs and stuff like that. And for that, you might need a more significant amount of athletes, but and it also varies on what price point you have as a coach. I think that in Denmark, it's around 150 to maybe goes up to 250 euros a month that you charge the athletes. So depending on how much you want your salary to be, then you would have to have
I think
like
it's just under $200 when I calculated. If someone is
yeah.
listening from the US.
Yeah, I think that with the tax system that we have in Denmark, you would need like 25, 30 athletes in order to make a living.
Exactly. And if you have 25 to 30 athletes, I believe it's super hard to be there 100% for everyone. Isn't that right? I'm not a coach myself, so that's just my assumption. It's super hard to charge people full price and make every 30 athletes feel that you are there for them. And so my question here is how AI can maybe be a tool for you to do some of the more, how can you say that? We have a Danish word called rugbrødsarbejde. I don't know what the term is in English, but can you talk about that part, Katrine, maybe?
Yeah, of
How
course.
AI maybe can help you actually.
No, I think that it's actually I missed something out when I was talking about the LP Tri Club, because we kind of set it up not knowing what was going to happen, if we would have any members at all. So I must admit I was a little bit maybe unprepared when then all of a sudden I stood with 24 women expecting, and I had to kind of figure out pretty fast how to do this. And the plan was all along not to have individual programs for everyone, but to make like levels and then give them a standardized program. So this is also why I was so excited about finding out that TriDot actually helps me give them the individual programs without me having to sit and type them all out from scratch. So I think that has helped a lot, and I think that with TriDot, there's so many things to getting to be a coach on TriDot. But one of the things is that once you're a coach on TriDot, you get your Teams connection, you get your own email connected to it as well. So what I do now is just that I have it very structured. Obviously, that's the easiest way to do it. So I have a set date in the calendar every fourth week with an athlete. It's always there. We can change the time if something happens, but we always have our standard call every fourth week. And then I give them feedback on a Monday. I look at their training the week before, and I can see in TriDot how well they've done in their trainings compared to what they were supposed to do. So the system really helps me, and the system also makes it fun for the athletes, because they can also see how well they've done compared to what was supposed to be done for the training. So say you have zone 2 work and you're in zone 4 all the time, you won't score high points. And I will then go back to the athlete saying, you're supposed to do zone 2. Why did you do zone 4? Well, there was this hot guy and I had to follow him. But no, that was not what was supposed to happen in that training. So, you can always go back and give them feedback and try to help them do the training correctly. So I think that makes it a lot easier, because it's easier to structure your coaching in TriDot than any other platform I've seen.
And Jeff, is that also some of the feedback you get from the coaches that you work with and meet in your daily job, that they are actually able to handle more clients without compromising quality for the individual?
That's some for sure. They can do that. We have a good blend of full-time coaches that need to train and work with more athletes. And I know for those, the number one reason that athletes leave coaches has historically, we've been surveying it for about 15 years, is lack of communication, lack of a relationship with their coach. And so the old way coaches spent so much of their time messing with the training plan that they didn't have enough time to get to know their athletes. And so they're able to do that. But we have a lot of coaches who are part-time coaches, and they love this, their side hustle. It's how they pay for their triathlon habit. Maybe they're racing and want to travel and don't want to give up the kids' Christmas presents. So they coach a few athletes to support that habit. So
exactly. But the question was also maybe a little bit directed towards us living here in Scandinavia, because our tax rate is so, I think it's one of the highest in the world. So actually one of the bigger coaching companies that actually originated in Denmark from Copenhagen moved the company to Spain because it simply couldn't, it wasn't rentable. So I just thought it was a super interesting topic. But let's talk a little bit about the athletes. If I understand this correctly, if we have a completely newbie, a rookie triathlete that don't have any previous data or results, when this athlete logs training daily and more about this athletes, will the program get gradually more accurate? Is that how it should be understood?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we prescribe hundreds of millions of training sessions for athletes. And so athletes even coming on, we can identify certain things about the athlete from their demographics, from their training very quickly, because we've already trained thousands and thousands of athletes just like them. And so I think an easier way to look at it is maybe I describe how we use the AI during the process and how the data is used. Because data doesn't mean intelligence. You can have a lot of raw data that's not useful. And so AI is only as good as the data that it's trained on, the information that it's trained on. And so like the old model that, if you're using an LLM or other apps out there that may replicate a philosophy or a template, or use large language model just based on internet text, they're not going to produce the same things. Data is not intelligence. So we turn that data, our FitLogic intelligence engine turns that data into actionable intelligence, kind of like the flight control system. It does things for a pilot that a pilot can't do. It does more than that. It's a tool, but it's not just giving them shortcuts or giving them efficiencies there. And if I walk through, maybe it might be helpful to walk through the 4 phases of training design. So these are the 4 areas that coaches or athletes, anyone would do when you're going through it. And I'll show you kind of how uniquely we use the data and the technology to provide better training for athletes. So first, the phases are assessment. There's an assessment of the athlete, their ability. There's prescription of training. Then there's evaluation, like Katrine mentioned, how well did they do the training? And then there's a prediction. At the end of that, what do you expect the outcome to be? Because unless you're able to predict or have an expected outcome, you don't know if you did well. Did their training, was it effective or not effective? And so walking through those 4, if I just take a couple of minutes, though, it starts with assessing the athlete. And a TriDot is your dot score is a measure of your performance ability on a scale of 1 to 100, where 100 is nearly world record pace and 1 is barely moving. And so you have a swim dot score, bike dot score, and a run dot score. So now we have a standard by which to evaluate someone. It's based on your threshold, your functional threshold. And so now you can compare the different disciplines. That's also age and gender normalized. And so, a 30-minute 5K is maybe not that great for a 20-year-old, but for a 70-year-old, it's exceptional. And so by having age and gender normalization, we can tell where someone is on that performance ability standard. And if you think even measuring outcomes for an individual person, if you had a 1-minute improvement over a 2-month period, is that good if you don't have a standard to compare that to? So if a 20-year-old improved from a 27-minute to a 26-minute, that's okay, not great. But if a 63-year-old female, same thing, that would be a huge improvement. And so that's a basis, like a basis line. So everything that we have is age and gender normalized. It also can pull in your genome, your genetics, and we look at 23 different genes, And we look at your injury predisposition, like how likely are you to get injured, your training, your recovery rate, how you respond to what kind of training, and your aerobic potential. And so we're looking at all that.
This is really new to me. So
Yeah.
how do you get this kind of data about the gene stuff? That I have never heard of that before.
Yeah, there's services like Ancestry.com or 23andMe. You just get them to do your typing, and then you download your genome and import it to our system. And we look for all those, they call them SNPs, and look for those, the phenotypes that you have, and optimize your training. It's not just like informational, like, hey, you have a high recovery rate, or, is telling you stuff, but it actually uses that in the optimization of your training when it's designing training for you. And from that, we're able to design what's called a training stress profile, which for each athlete, it's how much training stress can you handle over different time periods. And it's not just training stress in general, it's aerobic stress, threshold stress, muscular stress, and neural stress in a session, in a microcycle, and in a mesocycle. So now if you think about it, and another thing on the dot scores and everything, one of the pieces of that is environment normalization. So if you're doing an effort, and it's very hot outside compared to cool outside, and you see an improvement, or it's more than you think, or it's not very much, maybe it was a temperature change. So we environment normalize all of our data. So when we're learning on that data, it's not just raw data like you'd have on your Garmin, your Polar device, or Suunto. It's environment normalized, taking all those things into account, your age and your gender and your DNA, and then prescribing training that's specifically for you. So when I mentioned that first phase of assessment, that's the kind of assessment that we're doing that no other platform in the world can do. So we're prescribing training specifically for the individual down to that level with all those different factors. And we're the only one that does any of those things. And that's just the assessment piece.
That's really next level. Cameron Worth, a former Olympian rower, a pro tour biker, shows up. I want to be coached by you and use TriDot. Is the AI system also able to handle this kind of person with a superhuman physique within these things that you just explained?
You can. Some that needs, when you get to the very tip of the spear, it's a little bit different. But you can certainly do that. You can certainly use it. They have probably their areas of improvement would not be in their strength already. It would be the other areas where they're maybe mere mortals with the bike and other places. But we've had para triathletes that we put on the platform, and we've had to adapt some of the same scales, just kind of create a certain scale and make an adjustment for being on a hand bike or being on blades, running on blades. And so there's different things that you can make to accommodate, but that's the same as a coach would have to do anyway with that individual, because they're kind of one of a kind. There's not most coaches don't have an experience working with a lot of people like that. And so that's where we learn.
Lovely. And Katrine, working within the system for some time now, what's your favorite features and the one you used the most with the athletes that you have?
I think that there are many, but I think that one of the things that also separates from lots of the other platforms out there is that the threshold history is kind of lined up, so you can constantly see how much you improve every time you do a test, and it goes into your threshold history, and you can look back at it. So now this is really cool numbers to look at when you've coached an athlete for, let's say, a year, and you can see how they've improved. And sometimes they might have standing a little bit still, or they might have done a test where it was really warm. So, but you can see how they've progressed in their training, and they think that that's really cool to look at as well. And it actually also makes them want to do these tests so they can follow their progress all the time. So I think that that's one of the things that is really cool for the athletes as well. And then obviously the whole TrainX score. So we can see how well they are doing compared to what was expected of them on a certain training. And then how well they're doing on a weekly basis as well is also really useful. And it's something that also makes it a little bit competitive, but in a fun way for the athletes. Now I create communities. So all of a sudden now they're not talking about, well, listen how fast I am on my 5 kilometer test or something like that. They're more talking about, oh, I got the highest score on that training. And the other one might be, oh, I couldn't get a high score in that training. How did you do that? You know, so it's not about who's faster than the other anymore. It's about doing the training correctly. And I think that's really cool with what I want to achieve as a coach.
About the TrainX and the way to design it, can you go into a little bit more specifics, Jeff, about this for a guy like me who is not that much into mathematics and stuff like that? Maybe some of the listeners out there have the same problem. So yeah, Jeff, take it away.
Sure. Yeah. So the 4 phases were assessment, prescription, evaluation, and prediction. Evaluation is where the TrainX score is. Maybe before that just the prescription piece. When you're prescribing the training, we use the AI, our Fit Logic Intelligence Engine, to manage training stress. We're actually the only platform that accurately measures and quantifies training stress. You know, your response to training stress, your heart rate and high heart rate variability, doesn't actually measure the training stress. It's reactive. It's after the fact. If you think of maybe if you did a workout today and the next morning your resting heart rate is high or your HRV is low, that doesn't tell you what happened. It knows that there's stress, but it doesn't mean was a workout yesterday very hard, too hard? Was a workout that you did 3 days ago too hard and you're not recovered? That from your training load from the last 6 weeks that was too high? Or did you have a couple drinks of alcohol more than you should? Or were you dehydrated? Or was it a hot day? You don't know any of that. So we actually quantify training stress as normalized training stress and are able to prescribe that specifically. And again, training stress is not one big bucket of training. It's different. So muscular stress and neural stress, aerobic stress and threshold stress are different systems that are different they're taxing on your body differently, and they take different amounts of time to decay or to go away for the fatigue to reside. So you may be familiar with TSS. It's on another platform, but that's about a 20 plus year old metric that's outdated and it doesn't work. It's inaccurate. There's about 6 or 7 different aspects of it that don't measure training stress appropriately. Like, for example, it takes your average intensity over a whole workout. Say if you had a 30-minute tempo run, everyone knows that the last 15 minutes of the 30 is much more stressful than the first 15 minutes of that effort. And so there's an exponential relationship with time and stress, and then intensity and stress. Something that's 10% harder is not just 10% more stressful. It's increasingly more stressful. So we manage that, and then proactively is really cool. We adjust the training stress that we're giving you, your paces, powers, whatever it might be, your watts, for the environment. And so if you have, a certain watts that you're supposed to push on the bike in the early morning, and then you go to work out in the afternoon, it's going to change the watts to the hot, humid environment, or if you're indoors or outdoors. And so we're environment normalizing and prescribing you this precise amount of training that you need, and then measuring that training stress accordingly, which brings us to that TrainX metric. That's in the evaluation phase. And so where you look at actually what happened. So you can't look at what happened unless you quantified what went into that, what caused the training. And so we proactively prescribe the right kind of training in the right amounts, in the right frequency. That helps us better understand from the response to it what the response was. A TrainX score, though, is really simple and fun. A lot of apps that you see out there, they measure your total miles, your total time, you get the session done, so you get the kudos for doing the workout, but they don't say, did you do the right thing? In a TrainX, X means execution, so it's training execution score. So it's how well did you do the workout that was prescribed for you? And so it looks at different workouts differently. So not just did you go for an hour or did you run a certain amount of Ks, but if it's a long workout, it prioritizes the duration. It's building your stamina. So it really matters if you get the duration. If it's a quality workout, short or faster, maybe you didn't do the last 20 minutes after your run, but you did your main set very well. That would score high. If, like Katrine mentioned, the easy, if you go too hard, it's going to score you lower. So it's a 1 to 100 scale. And so you don't get extra credit for going too hard. And so it makes sure that you do the right work. We found that athletes will improve more. There's a TrainX score. An average is in the 70s with most athletes start. But if an athlete improves their TrainX score from a 60 to a 90, that gives more benefit to the athlete than doubling their training volume. Most people, have been around a while, think more is better. You train more. I need to train more. They do a race. I need to train more. But it's better. Your success in training and your improvement from training has much more to do with how you train than how much you train. And so this helps you do that. And getting the scores helps educate the athletes very quickly so they can execute the workouts better, do their intervals more consistently, hold the right paces, and also gives them confidence that they can do the workouts that are prescribed for them. Exactly. So that's the evaluation piece.
Explaining this maybe also half answers my next question, because I believe when you have sold the idea behind TriDot and how terrific AI is, there must be people out there asking, well, what the hell? This is Denmark. We can say hell here. What the hell do I need a human coach for if we have this terrific AI? So I believe it's still quite important that you have a certified coach to analyze all these data properly.
Yeah, sure. I think that people work very differently. People are very individual. I think that the platform also allows you to be able to train without a coach, and just get the program and get the data. You won't get this, maybe not get the same out of the analysis, but you can definitely use the program without a coach. I think that what is like, do you remember Lilan, my friend Lilan, who was top age grouper back in the days? We were actually sitting having breakfast the other day, and she said to me, if I'm going to do a race again, I would need a coach. And I said, oh, okay. It's funny to hear you say that. She's been training for so many years, and she even said, like, I know what to train. I just need someone to kind of like pick me up when it's hard. I need someone to keep me going. I can't do it on my own. And I think that I'm the same. I would do the same if I have to do half distance or something. I'm not saying I am, but if I have to do something again, I would definitely also get a coach, because I would need someone to help guide me, help make sure that I actually do the training, and just give me those thumbs up when I do well and tell me off when I don't do well. The partner in crime, the support. So I think that it's very individual if you need a coach, or if you want a coach, or if you don't want a coach.
Jeff, you being the mastermind behind the platform, can you talk a little bit about how important is it that there's a qualified coach behind?
I agree with Katrine, what she said, and that it's so individual to the individual athletes. That some want to coach, some just want a plan, and that's fine. And they talk about, AI doesn't replace jobs; it replaces tasks. So if your task is only the job, if all a coach ever did was provide a plan, then coaches could be replaced. But that's not all coaches do. There's so much more to being a coach. So I think what we've seen in the last several years, or now even, is the decoupling of a coach is not just a producer of a plan, but they do so many other things. And there's athletes that maybe all they want is a plan. I think in the US anyway, and pretty globally, about 85% of athletes can't afford a coach, don't think their performance is worthy of a coach. There are a number of different reasons. They just don't hire a coach. It's not, they think they got it. But coaches just completely change the experience of the athlete. When you have someone that you can call and talk to, and that's going to empathize with you and care, technology can never care. You cannot have a relationship with with technology. Technology doesn't understand. It's doing computations and calculations. And so during an experience, people do, triathlon for a variety of different reasons, but having someone to celebrate with, having someone to lean on when it's going tough, having someone to see the things that are not in the data, stress with relationships and work and travel. And there's a whole bunch of things that are not accounted for in the data. And that's when a coach is just indispensable.
Exactly. And I think maybe this is a natural way to go into the final discussion of this interview, the final planned one, that is, because at least here in Scandinavia, the number of people who are diagnosed with, let's say, ADHD, people who have an anxiety, also completely went through the roof. And a lot of people with, let's say, ADHD are naturally drawn into running, cycling, Ironman training, because it's a way to let off steam. But atypical neurological minds response in a way that's hard to measure. It's hard to do a straightforward program if you have a, let's say, meltdown and you can't train for 1.5 day. So is that something, Jeff, if I start with you, that you have noticed that this is an issue that has risen within the last few years, and an issue that you have to take that into consideration as well as a coach?
Yeah, you sure do. So I think there's a lot in communicating with athletes. We talk about focusing on progress, not perfection. And so helping people understand that there's a process to it, and being consistent matters much more than taking a break or missing a workout or anything like that. So setting proper mental expectations is great. I think a lot of athletes used to get so caught up into doing more volume and feeling like if they missed anything, it was the end of the world. And as we stress more, doing the right work, doing the right training right. So it's not just that it's the right training, but doing it right. It matters consistently over time. And so helping athletes understand that missing a workout or dealing with life, it's okay. And then the software picks up where they left off. It sees what they didn't do or what they did, and then adapts to that quickly. So when they do their next workout, they're already ready to get back on track without the pressure or the anxiety around it. Setting proper expectations, I think, is good. And then for a coach, not having to deal with the technology and the programming, rather, they have more time to build that relationship and understand the athlete better. And so they're able to build more rapport and relationship with them. Like you said, it's not data. There's not data informing them as to what's going on with them. That can only happen and be communicated in a personal way, human to human.
Great. And Katrine, you experience in working with, let's say, motivation, let's say mental health crisis amongst your athletes. What have you experienced in the past year or two?
Well, I've experienced a lot, but I think that what is important is that you, as a coach, you're always trying to understand the athlete and where the athlete is. And yeah, the data, as Jeff also mentioned, the data won't pick up if someone has her heart broken. But I will pick that up as a coach, and I might say to her, okay, you don't need to train as much this week because he just threw you out of your apartment, and you need to figure out where you're gonna live. And then what's really cool about TriDot then is that it picks up that she hasn't been doing her training, and then it adapts to that. So, again, playing together the human being and the technology, I think that is really mind-blowing and something that's really really cool, and something that's also come to stay in terms of triathlon and coaching.
Yeah. And as I understood before, Jeff, it's not driven by kudos like certain other platforms.
Right.
So it's not something that encourages you to just completely drop your normal life. I really love that. You are in Nice right now, Jeff, supporting athletes. Are there any names we should be looking out for? World Championship candidates in the age group ranks this Sunday?
Age group ranks, I'd say watch for Andrew Hall. We have a whole lot of athletes here. For every one that you might see in a kit, TriDot, there's 20 others in other people's kits, Team Zoot, all over the world, like Katrine's team. There's a lot here that we're watching. Andrew Hall, he was the North American champion. He probably has a great story, just to give you a little background, create some maybe a little drama, but He won the North American Championship 2 years in a row, the last 2 years. So this past in the Woodlands in late April, early May, and he won. He went at 8:30 for the full Ironman, which is a pretty good time. He beat, I think, second place by 12 minutes. He beat 40% of the pro field, and he's a 40-year-old athlete. So he's 40. He's not a youngster. He's 40. Most people at that level are training 25 to 30 hours a week. He trains an average of under 15 hours a week. So being 40% of the pro field, being 40 years old, winning by that much, and training 40% less than his peers. And if you think about that, that's 10 hours a week less. If you add that up over a year, that's 3 months worth of 8-hour work days that you get back in your life. And plus not the wear and tear on your body. So the injuries and the overtraining and so many different things. So he's going to be here racing. And so maybe keep your eye on him. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, for sure. And Katrine, is there any one that you are coaching or / know from your hood that you think we should keep our eyes on?
I don't have any athletes in Nice, unfortunately, this year. So
Do you have to know someone because you know everybody?
I know a guy called Magnus Ditlev. I think he's gonna go for something big.
He's actually he grew up next to where you live, right? In Virum. He's a local hero. It's quite fun. It has been super interesting. I think you did a terrific job promoting TriDot, but I will still give you 45 seconds to do your best pitch.
Yeah, so I do agree. I think AI is here to stay. AI is not all AI is the same. We are specifically built for endurance athletes and trained based on endurance athletes' data. And so super excited. Every single athlete that uses our platform and every single coach makes it better. So we're getting better and better each day. And I'm just so excited for all the development and the things we're working on that's yet to come.
And Katrine, do you have anything that you want to share and maybe also where people can find you?
Yeah, so first thing I want to share is just that there are so many people out there dreaming big, dreaming about doing a half or a full distance and lacking confidence and lacking faith in themselves. And as I always say, and I know people always say, well, you're a machine or something else, but I really do believe that if I can do it, then anyone can do it. And I think that has just been proving over and over again. If you set your mind to racing a full distance Ironman, then you'll definitely go the distance. And I think that TriDot, however you may use it, because I'm also aware of the fact that not all people can afford a coach. So however you might use it, it will help you lead the way into your goals. And I think that is something that's mind blowing and something that can kind of do all coming athletes, all coming Ironmans a big favor in helping them on their journey. So yeah, and you can find me on my webpage if you want to talk more to me. I'm always open for chats about upcoming goals and dreams and making them come true.
And we'll of course share that in show notes, but it's just Katrine Trolle straight out.
It's Trolle, ktrolle.dk and Trolle coaching on Instagram.
Perfect. And Jeff, if people want to reach out to you or TriDot, how is the easiest way to find you guys?
The easiest way, we have Facebook, which is a good group, Instagram, TriDot Training, or our website, TriDot.com.
Perfect. I think most people will be able to find you guys. Thank you so much for a super interesting conversation. I learned a lot here, and I think people will be excited to learn much more about you guys. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Lasse.
Thank you.